creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
Hey guys, a super El Nino just officially kicked in last month. It's strengthening way faster than they expected, and NOAA is now saying that this one could end up being the biggest one ever recorded. NOAA officially declared this on June the 11th, and the Pacific is already sitting at over 1.7 degrees, which they're saying is way ahead of schedule. They're giving it a 63% chance of going very strong by this winter, and 8 out of the 13 models that they're currently using have it beating the record from 1982. So that's obviously fantastic. If you're somebody that doesn't know what an El Nino actually does, it flips the weather on the entire planet at the same time. They're saying that it dries out Australia, India, and Southern Africa into a drought, and then it dumps flooding on Peru and East Africa, and then gives the southern US a wetter, cooler winter. But the bigger deal that we're all facing literally right now is the heat, because the last two Super El Ninos gave us some of the hottest years on record. People have already been betting on Kalshi for 2026 being the hottest year ever recorded, and this thing doesn't even start until next year. Hello.
Seawolves are exactly what you think they are. Let's talk about it. And I don't mean lobos del mar, no, actual sea wolves. You see, wolves don't get enough credit for how stubbornly adaptable they are. They're like intercontinental canine cockroaches. And when humanity nearly wiped them off the map, a small group of gray wolves started moving marine. Friendly reminder, but if you see a mammal, assume they can swim unless they prove to you that they can't. And sea wolves have been on record swimming 7+ miles between islands and outcrops looking for food. So if you're on a boat off British Columbia, the chances you see a wolf are low, but never zero. That's how the wolves swam to Vancouver Island, and how they got their name, the Vancouver Island sea wolf. But what also makes these wolves different is over 90% of their diet comes from the sea. Instead of the classic bison or elk, these wolves go for seals, otters, but also clams, crabs, mussels, and barnacles. Now what if I told you these wolves have even more surprises? Alright, so in British Columbia, invasive green crabs have become a huge problem, as invasives usually are, to the point where scientists and fishers have set up traps to try and control them. Except the traps kept coming up damaged, and because a lot of the compromised traps were placed deep
That's good.
underwater, the
I mean, they're tasty. The crabs.
suspect was assumed to be something seal-like, except, nah, cameras revealed that it was wolves diving underwater, grabbing the buoys, bringing the buoys to shore, pulling on the lines like a human would until they brought the traps up before eating the bait inside. I don't know how I don't know who taught them that. I don't even know how they knew the traps were there. Like, tell me I'm not tripping for thinking that's insane. Like, you knew wolves were smart. Did you know they were tool use smart? Mind you, the same wolves also learned to comb the coast to scavenge whale carcasses, and even memorize and follow the famous salmon migration. Salmon that can be a quarter of their diet. Mind you, too much salmon can cause salmon poisoning, which can be fatal to wolves. So how do they avoid it? Somehow the sea wolves figured they can reduce the risk if they eat only the heads and brains of the fish. You see why I said canine cockroaches? That's not an insult, by the way, just that the wolves find a way. And I respect that. The more you know.
If you
I mean, they got that dog in them.
don't think we're being blasted by all kinds of radio waves and electromagnetic radiation, watch this clip from 2017 about smart meters.
And we now have vast amounts of published science on microwave radiation and health effects. The data we're going to look at are all published science, testing results, or public standards. At the bottom end of the radiation scale of what's called power density or signal strength is the minimum level at which cell phones will work, which was found to be 0.2 billionths of a microwatt per centimeter squared. Pine needles were found to age prematurely at 0.000027. At short-term exposures of 0.05, children aged 8 to 17 experienced headache, irritation, concentration difficulties, and behavioral problems. Point 1 is the biobiology or building biology guideline for extreme concern. 1.0 produced sperm DNA fragmentation and a decrease in sperm viability in vitro. Also at 1.0, the science shows the following bodily effects can occur: headaches, dizziness, fatigue, insomnia, chest pain, difficulty breathing, and indigestion. 2.5 saw altered calcium metabolism in heart muscle cells. 4.0 changes in the hippocampus affecting brain memory and learning, and at 6.0, DNA damage in cells. So, where are smart meters on this list? Electrical Power Institute in December 2010 measured a single Itron smart meter with pulses up to 7.93 microwatts per centimeter squared. Our own testing indicated approximately 8.0 with 1 meter. These tests are at a close distance, approximately 1 foot away from the meter, but an infant's crib could be just as close on the other side of the wall where the meter or bank of meters are installed. Even though there are all these known health effects at levels far lower, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and Luxembourg see fit to set the standard at 9.5. And China, Poland, and Russia, 10.0. This is the same level at which behavior has been altered, producing reflexes of avoidance following 30-minute exposures. A room of 12 smart meters, very common and even a conservative number in an apartment building, tested at 19.8 microwatts per centimeter squared. This is hundreds of times higher than levels which clearly indicate harmful effects. So, how can utilities and governments get away with forcing these devices on everyone? This is how. In Canada and the US and several other civilized countries, the safety limit is set at 600 to 1,000 microwatts per centimeter squared. This so-called safety limit is literally tens of thousands of times higher than levels which are known to damage health, according to peer-reviewed published science.
All part of the plan to reduce the population, and yet most people have no idea at all.
So I'm making
Listen
this to make everybody perfectly clear that I love my life. I would never do anything to harm myself in any way, shape, or form. I'm doing this because all the scientists disappearing are starting to disappear. People who tell the truth.
You're so alarmed to see that, 15 scientists now? It's literally become a pattern right in front of our eyes, so much so that the president is now being involved in this, and FBI is investigating. We all know what that means. They found out something. They were studying something that they didn't want us knowing, and they were taken out for it. Maybe not every single person, maybe not every scientist, but when there's a pattern, something else is going on. This, though, is not the first time this has happened, guys. Stanley Meyer, a man that allegedly was able to turn water into fuel, a car that could run on water. He died in 1988 screaming, "They poisoned me." Of course, they did an investigation afterwards and said that his invention was actually fraudulent, and they came to that determination in court. Let's just say that's true, right? Let's keep going. Eugene Malov, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but he promoted cold fusion, which is essentially an unlimited energy idea. He was murdered in 2004 for no reason. Said it was a robbery-related murder. And I forgot his last name, but Julian something. Last year this was happening. I forgot what he did. Yes, Julian Brown, I looked it up. He last year ended up having to go on the run and documented it because he found out how to use plastic and burn the plastic and use it as fuel. Do you guys understand how monumental that would be for our environment? On the run, right? He is alive and well right now at this point. I mean, this isn't inventions, but we see Andrew Dawson. We see so many people that saw things that they were not supposed to do, or see David Wilcock, a scientist, literally said, let me pull it up. I plan on living, not suicidal at all, just concerned about what happens when you prove God is real. This man is gone. His co-host for Ancient Aliens, I think it was a show he was on, died 2 weeks before him, and then his biographer died 2 days before him. Do y'all not see a pattern? Do y'all not see that something is definitely going on? This is not new. It's been happening. I mean, just look into Left Eye's death. Just look into Left Eye's death, okay? Anyway, y'all, as always, make sure you like and follow, and comment down below what you think.
Not everyone walking amongst us are human or have a soul.
What's the single most disturbing thing you've found that you actually believe is real?
That's all real. It's occult worship. They believe in magic. You could get into like Aleister Crowley. All that's real. I mean, he wrote books about it. It's not like they were trying to hide it, but these are the elites. These people wrote extensively about parties they were having. They were summoning demons and they harm children. That is the world we live in. The craziest part is the people that protect them. Oh, for money. Everyone knew what Epstein was doing. He was protected. It's a system. And you need to wake up and realize that our world is in fact being run by. If the Epstein thing didn't wake you up to the fact that it's left and right, you're still asleep. And these are ancient problems that we have. People that worship and summon demons and believe in the occult and do it in your face.
Let's look at
The FBI had the files and did
The
nothing.
erased history of America. From the Revolutionary War to World War I, pretty much all of American cities were destroyed by dynamite and gunpowder. They claim these were fires, but you can see the electric poles are still standing and they are not burnt black. In many instances, you can see the trees are still intact. They really call this devastation a result of a fire. It looks no different than Civil War photos where cities are deliberately destroyed. This is supposedly a photo from a fire, and this is a Civil War photo. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Greco-Roman architecture, supposedly a burned city. And it's funny, these cannonballs would not even fit in these cannons. This is the Chicago fire. This is Richmond after the Civil War. These were massive citywide fires and very few people died. And we got people taking these photos after the fires like they're proud of it. And there are multiple cities across multiple states that all burned at the same time even. They claim this is over the course of about 130 years or so, but what if the timeline is much tighter than that? These wars brought about deliberate fires that destroyed many cities. The transition of power from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War was a massive erasure of history, and the Gilded Age of the late 1800s was an acceleration of that erasure. History, immigration records, and patents or inventions were all lost. And at the same time, we have scumbags like Carnegie consolidating the flow of knowledge with the library programs. This is complete domination of the historical narrative. Libraries around the world. Carnegie was placed into power through an insider trading scheme. The Carnegie Endowment was and is the foundation for the CIA and other intelligence communities. And of course, hundreds of libraries burned down, and what survived was transferred to Carnegie libraries. Similar to the burning of the Library of Alexandria. Oh wait, this is Alexandria, Louisiana. It's important to remember they didn't destroy the materials, they destroyed the buildings. Shortly after the Civil War, the country was broke and in a depression, yet somehow managed opulent World's Fairs like the one in New Orleans. You can see these buildings in the foreground are temporary and made by the colonists. But the expensive Moorish architecture which was already there had to be attributed to Mexico because this makes no sense. And the country's doing even worse by 1893 but still having decadent World's Fairs. And this is when these people publicly took over the banking system. But the country had the money to make an event like this. This is a human zoo at the Chicago World's Fair. You can see this building is drawn in. You can see this kid is photoshopped in. Look, Photoshop is old. And there was a Mayan temple at the Chicago World's Fair. The Miami people are part of the Maya. You can see these are permanent structures and there's some meltology at the bottom. Look at the rubble. Look, the Louisville World's Fair, it also had a Mayan temple. That's what the mound system is. The different architecture is from different resets and different regimes of power. Similar to the Hopi 5 age or 5 reset theory. Much of the West is destroyed from cataclysms. This is a remnant. Look, melted buildings. World's Fairs established societal rules, reinforcing inverted color status. Then the World Wars eliminate whatever history is left. The World Wars were organic drone warfare. This looks no different than the deliberate destruction of America. America is the real old...
Breaking news, this is the CIA headquarters, and someone submitted a Freedom of Information request, and they actually approved it and sent them a document about how the CIA had people in their organization remote view the Ark of the Covenant. Now, if you don't know what remote viewing is, it's the ability to perceive information and imagery of remote geographical targets. And the CIA has used people to remote view stuff all the time. They found a downed plane in the Congo that the transponder was broken on it. They couldn't find it. They got a girl in there who was remote viewing. Hey, where are the coordinates? She gave them the coordinates. They went to the spot and found this plane. This is not the first time the CIA has remote viewed something. A declassified CIA document from Project Sunstreak dated 1988 claims that the Ark of the Covenant was discovered through remote viewing. The document describes the Ark as a wooden, gold, and silver coffin-shaped object with a six-winged angel located underground in the Middle East and guarded by entities. Then it says that we as conscious humans can traverse these fundamental connections through the mind and actually perceive places, people, objects without having to be directly in their proximity. And this is what the CIA used to report the Ark of the Covenant. Now, this is the document, and I can tell you that you would not be able to remote view if it weren't for your pineal gland or your third eye, which these organizations know all about. However, most people's pineal glands are completely calcified. They are not working. And while I'd love to tell you all about how to get your pineal gland functioning again, it's quite a censored topic. But if you want to know how to get that pineal gland up and running, comment info below and I'll send you a DM with free ways to get your pineal gland working again. Put it that way.
Indiana Jones warned him about this.
Bro, look at Lego just a few days ago, y'all. Look at this.
The channel is, what do we got here? That looks like a mine. So it's a barrel filled with concrete, then has spikes coming out. Obviously, it's like an anchor. Well, we made it to the water line.
What?
I think I misjudged the area over there. I would not drag anything this far. That would suck.
Crazy.
Oh, nice. Some cinder block shoes. Surprised we haven't found a barrel yet.
Y'all see how big
I may have spoke too soon. So here it is. This is the water line for Lake Mead as of July 1st, 2026.
They been told us what was going to happen, what they were going to do with the water. Even in The Simpsons, they told us how water was going to become a luxury. Are you guys paying attention yet? Because alongside all of this stuff that's going on with the water, the United States Water Reserve came into play. Trump signed a few executive orders establishing artificial intelligence to quantum innovation technologies. So this means the water intake is going to skyrocket, which is exactly why I gave you guys the United States Water Reserve play very early. If you had paid attention to me by now and you had invested 1,000, you could have been about 20 bands. And I truly believe this is only the beginning for the United States Water Reserve, because look what's happening with the water right now. It's hot as hell and all the water is drying up. AI is drying up all the water. Pay attention, man. If you want to see this, man, get you a Phantom wallet, and everything for this will be pinned in the comments below. This is not financial advice. This is how I do my research. When it did your age, let's continue to get it. Peace in.
Giants, clones, weapons, and demons. Did you know my finals were in history, religion, and business? Explains a lot. This was my favorite topic. Nephilim. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. The Book of Enoch, Jasher, and Jubilees are biblically endorsed extra-biblical texts. Quoted all throughout Enoch 1, the Watchers were the fallen angels, 1/3 of God's angels. Semjaza was the leader, followed by Azazel. They taught humans warfare, metal work, magic, root cutting, astronomy, cosmetics, and cosmic secrets. It's written that the Watchers saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and took them as wives. And in this ancient language, the definition for those words implies that there was no consent. So, yeah. Their offspring were giants, and later diluted genetics led to Goliath. Allegedly, reportedly, this is just a story. These giants were called Nephilim, and apparently they corrupted humanity. An excerpt reads, they sinned against the birds, beasts, and reptiles, and devoured one another's flesh. In Aramaic and Hebrew, many words have multiple meanings. Instead of a word just having one definition, it could branch off into other meanings, concepts, or even the opposite meaning of the word, depending on the context. And these creatures supposedly were messing with God's creation, and when they say sinned, does that mean cloned? Could it be splicing genetics, like a liger? Perhaps they were using technology I spoke about earlier. And is that not what we're doing today? So God, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, sent a flood, and Archangel Raphael bound Azazel. Alas, the fallen angels were sent to prison until 70 generations. So when is their sentence up? Isn't it strange how technology exploded after the 1800s? Let me know what you think. Are we living in the days of Noah? And if so, what does that mean? Okay, thanks.
Everyone will jump to believe in dinosaurs, but draw the line at giants and dragons.
Bye.
Jesus and Lucifer. People think that that's two different people. It's the same person.
Let's talk about it. If that's where we're going, let's talk about it.
So when Lucifer's enemies created the Bible, they changed his name and renamed him. That's the way that they can control his energy. Who Lucifer is, let me say this. He was the first lieutenant on the Anunnaki spaceship with Uman-Ra, the Egyptian gods. When they first came here, they came here to mine gold. They came here with the Anunnakis and the reptilians and giants. The reason why Lucifer became a fallen angel is because he fell in love with Lilith. Lilith was reptilian bloodline. Back then, when you're thinking about species, aliens, you're not supposed to crossbreed. You're supposed to keep your blood as pure as possible. So then Ra casted him out. Some of the Anunnaki, the reptilians, went with Lucifer, got stuck here on Earth, and created a race.
What race is that?
I rebuke this teaching in the name of Jesus. The enemy is the author of confusion. I think she learned this from Billy.
This is the funeral of Margaret Bell. She passed away at 81 or 82 years old. She was a beekeeper. And in tradition of the beekeepers, her son Colin went to the hive. He knocked on it 3 times and announced to all the bees, "Your mistress is dead." He then went to the funeral, and what happened next is unexplainable. It's supernatural. They saw tens of thousands of bees swarm over like a cloud above the funeral and hovered and followed the funeral all the way to the burial site, hovered over the burial site.
And after the funeral was done, the bees dispersed. Scientists have tried to say this was a pheromone trail and that this was coincidental. Now, this doesn't mean that the bees had great understanding and recollection of who their carekeeper was. This doesn't mean that when they announced that, some kind of way they grasped it and mourned for her. This doesn't mean that science is always trying to explain away the supernatural. No, this doesn't mean that at all. Then they had the most profound harvest from that beekeeper, that place with honey. They had a harvest that was unlike anything they have recorded in history from their family honey farm. The son grabbed a jar from that harvest after she passed and put it on her burial site. Now, I think this is very interesting to gain just a little bit of insight into the world of connection to animals. Understood animals and misunderstood animals, and how a beekeeper's connection with bees can display the glory of God.
God is amazing.
There is a demon in the old grimoires that musicians have quietly claimed as their own. Amdusias, 67th spirit of Ars Goetia, a great duke of the abyss commanding 29 legions, and he arrives as a unicorn. Ask him properly and he takes human shape, and that's when his real signature begins. Music with no source. The grimoire says that the conjurer hears the trumpets and all manner of instruments sounding and sees nothing. Concerts from the empty air. The 17th century texts describe it exactly that way. Sound as his presence. Invisible orchestras as his calling card. And one detail stranger than the rest. He makes trees bend. Not storms or winds, the trees. Themselves lowering as if the forest is listening. Thunder in his voice in some traditions, which makes Amdusias something like the demon of overwhelming sound itself. Everything from the trumpet blast to the storm front. So think about what musicians have always said. That the melody arrived from nowhere. That something moved through them on the stage. That the best music plays them. The old world had a name and a seal for that exact experience. Composers, session players, and metal bands have been nodding at him ever since. Free craft keeps a patron. Musicians got a unicorn duke made of thunder. Tell me, where do you think music comes from? When it comes from nowhere. The Goetia spirits, what the grimoires actually says about working with them. That's in my Telegram study circle. Link is in bio.
So this is what the Texas government gave pamphlets to the citizens.
Yeah.
Zombie attack, are you prepared? Provided by Texas Constable Adam S. Crawford.
Oh my God.
Why is there no like global emergency symbol? Because they obviously don't want that, fam.
Wait,
now look,
what?
2 videos of people who see cars that are zombie outbreak response team. Look, here's another one.
No way.
Zombie, how do you not know about this?
Wow. Hey, are we in Resident Evil? Am I seeing Umbrella Corp on that car?
The freak? Tell you, the Walmart instance was the first one. A guy bit another guy in Walmart.
Yeah.
It was quarantined. Tried to bite the doctors. The next one, 2 people on the road, literally eating bunnies. Fur on, Carlos.
Whoa.
An old lady. She was walking down the street with raw chicken.
Yeah.
Oh. But look what she's eating. It's raw chicken.
Is that good?
She's just eating it out of that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's weird.
You know?
That is crazy, man. Man, what is going on in America?
Did you all see the breaking news coming out of southern eastern Oregon? So basically there's a cave system down there called the Paisley Caves. This right here is Cougar Cave. Inside of Cougar Cave archaeologists discovered additional items that they have been digging for since about 1958 when this cave system was discovered that proves that humans have been in Oregon and the entire North America now for 12,000 years, which is predating it by about 3,000 years. It was originally thought to be about 9,000. Now it's 12, based off of these animal hides that came back showing that they were sewing together arts and crafts inside of this cave system, which makes absolute complete sense when you think about the animals that were crawling around here in North America. All of these, which led me to creating an itinerary called the Stones and Bones Road Trip, where we start out in Fossil Oregon to dig for our own woolly mammoth bones, because this is the largest collection of fossils that you can dig for in the fossil beds. Then we're heading down this route, which heads over towards Bend, Oregon, where you can find jasper, obsidian, agate eggs, and petrified wood. On our way down to caves where they found all of the archaeology stuff. Some of these are open, some of them aren't because they're still actively digging. On our way to the Sunstone collection area, which is about 2 hours even further east. Ta-da!
So many people in my comment section have been specifically asking about the pink that is going on around their eyes. These, of course, are the 4 people that were arrested in the Benton County horror house. If you haven't already read what the sheriff and authorities saw at this house, then this wouldn't make sense to you. But they said that they saw human feces everywhere, that there was bacteria and dirt and just clutter everywhere. When the sheriff saw the young children, he said that they looked like feral animals. These kids have not seen the light of day. They don't go outside. They haven't communicated with other humans. Some of these children can't even speak. He describes the 18-year-old as disabled, not able to spell their own name. He's basically like, if you guys are asking me questions about these children and their education, this is on a whole different wavelength. These kids have not been educated. They don't even really know or understand schooling. The look in these people's faces and in these people's eyes is as if they are living and are from a different planet. They've been living in toxicity for years. So this pink around their eyes is completely normal considering the environment that they were in.
The hills have eyes, but real-life horror.
Top 3 of the strangest thing that's happened since CERN stopped the Hadron Collider. Is this a Mandela effect? Is this odd? Is it connected? Here are the top 3 strangest things on the internet that's happened since last month when CERN shut off the Hadron Collider. Number 3, the 1990 movie Valley Girl. Minute 3:06 in the movie, somebody captured this clip. Here's a clip from the movie where you zoom in and you see Chick-fil-A, but is there a K? If you look at this footage right there, there is no K. I don't care what you say. There is no K in Chick-fil-A.
I can't see
This
nothing.
movie. Now you can say they did that because of copyright. Yes, they could have, but Valley Girl was not a high budget movie. Do you think that they had the money to change a sign that quick? Number 2 comes from this 2006 animated movie. Right here, you see a picture of underwear, and what do they have? Fruit of the Loom logo with the cornucopia. Somebody recorded this, and it is strange. Either they're playing in our faces, they're in on the joke, or they're just putting in Mandela effects in the animated movie in 2006. Number 1, the weirdest thing on the internet right now is Sobe. Yes, you remember the energy drink Sobe in the 90s? So I remember it too. They got discontinued early 2000, but apparently they're back. Apparently they're in stores. Apparently you can order it. Apparently they never left. About you, but I remember seeing this brand all over in the 90s and the early 2000s, but guess what? Google said they were discontinued too, but apparently you can get these things on DoorDash, in Amazon, at your local stores. People are showing recent pictures of Sobe being in their stores. I don't know about you, but I thought that was disconnected, and those are my top 3. It's us.
You know it's getting bad now that farmers are starting to report data centers are killing their bees. I don't think people understand just how important this is. Without bees, we die too. Data centers produce artificial EMF fields that researchers say disrupt the magnetic navigation systems bees have relied on for millions of years. One farmer claims he hasn't seen a single bee since a data center was built nearby. These EMFs are causing documented reductions in colony size, decreased breeding efficiency, and distress signals consistent with bees sensing constant imminent danger. danger. This is happening while we already have a bee crisis. The US lost nearly 60% of managed colonies from 2024 to 2025, the worst year on record. Now it's getting that much worse. A 2023 review examining EMF impacts on insects broadly documented decreased reproductive capacity, altered behavior, oxidative stress, DNA damage, and impaired development. This is how important bees are to the food supply. Roughly 1 in every 3 bites of food people eat globally relies on pollination by bees and other insects. 1.4 billion people depend on pollination for jobs and income, and these are especially smallholder farms. Our entire food supply literally depends on keeping the bees alive. If we want to help fight back against this, we need to be supporting our local beekeepers and saving the environment.
This should scare the hell out of everyone. Einstein said, when the bees go, we go.
Catacombs are an equally fascinating and terrifying place. People have been known to vanish here, with stories of these disappearances happening all the way back to its inception. But people also willingly venture into this tunnel system to party and attend full-blown raves. What always freaks me out the most about the catacombs, though, is just thinking about the sheer vastness of the place. Construction on it began in the 18th century, yet we still have no idea where all of the paths lead or how deep they go. They have an entire team dedicated to mapping the catacombs out, affectionately named cataphiles. And these people have uncovered some pretty horrific things along the way, like a video camera showing a man's final moments as he aimlessly wanders through the dark passageways lined with human bones. If you've never heard of that story or the many others that come from the catacombs, let me know in the comments and I'd be happy to share in a future video. But to understand just how terrifying of a place the catacombs are, you have to first understand its history. Why was it built and how? You see, in the 18th century, the city of Paris had a problem. They had too many dead people. Their cemeteries were overcrowded and the bodies were essentially seeping fluids into the groundwater. Yeah. People were drinking them. It was, as you can imagine, a huge health hazard, but also sinkholes began opening up. And in one case, such a large sinkhole collapsed hundreds of rotten corpses into someone's basement. So as you can tell, they had a massive problem on their hands. But that's when they remembered that the city of Paris had a huge limestone quarry sitting directly underneath it that had since been abandoned. So for the next 3 years, starting in December of 1785, a wagon accompanied by a priest singing hymns and draped in a black veil would be loaded full of skeletal remains and carry them under the cover of darkness down into the tunnel system that we now call the catacombs. When we think of the catacombs, we might imagine the walls precisely lined with human skulls, but that's not what it started as. The skeletons were first dumped into these former extraction wells, resulting in tall heaps of bones at the bottom of these pits. It wasn't until 1809, when a new inspection general took over the architectural aspect of the catacombs, that they became the organized ossuary that we see today. A 5-story deep, 186-mile long, unmapped territory filled with the skeletons of those who came before us. It's no wonder people get lost down there.
Terrifying what Meta is doing to your drinking water.
So apparently, Meta's data center in Wyoming has been pumping drug-resistant bacteria into the town's water system. It's in Cheyenne, where a Meta affiliate company called Goat Systems runs an 800. See, before a data center powers on, it floods its cooling system with water. They call it a fill and flush. Goat Systems flushed that water into Cheyenne's public pipes, and it was carrying something. City workers found it by accident as they were running routine tests for fecal contamination. They hit a pathogen that they never saw. The city's water manager said this isn't something they normally test for, and after a long process, they found out it was Cupriovitis gilardi. It's a rare, multi-drug resistant bacterium. Infections are extremely rare, and it's been related to 10 deaths, with 3 of those deaths being immunocompromised children. And one review found a 31%. The city traced it back to Meta's discharge and ruled Goat Systems in severe non-compliance. And beyond that, they banned fill and flush discharge from every single data center connected to the city's water system. The people living next to these data centers are done. Public anger at data centers is increasing, and towns are starting to reject them. And every time you use ChatGPT, watch TikTok, or watch a YouTube video, it runs through a building like this.
First, they take away our land. Then they contaminate our water, all the while hitting us with strange frequencies of sound.
You can see it's in a high 58s, 59s to 60s.
Do you hear that noise in the background? That's the sound of a hyperscale data center here in Dowagiac, Michigan. I'm Emma Brott with 16 News Now. Now today I've been talking to residents who are telling me just how loud this place is. Right now there's a class action lawsuit alleging that these loud noises are affecting 1,300 residents within a 1-mile radius of this hyperscale data center. Ooh. A resident living just across the street from this data center tells me he's bought a decibel reader just to see how loud it is on an average day.
Right there, it's going between 61 and 64 decibels with how that's talking.
That resident tells me it's been affecting his wife's health and also his pregnant neighbor's health as well, giving her headaches if she stays outside too long just because of how loud it is.
I could see that constant noise driving some people off the edge.
This is all alleged and for education and entertainment purposes only. Is Himalayan sea salt actually giant flesh, allegedly?
What?
Okay.
Fallen angels that came down.
Yep.
They mated with women.
Nephilim, yep.
The Nephilim.
Yep.
These giants, but not just, I guess apparently there's like different types of giants. You have like the Titans. You have the giants that were like Goliath. That was maybe like mid-sized giant. But there were huge giants. And when I say that, like not like human, like 9 feet tall human, like you're like, wow, that's this is like, think of a mountain and that is a giant.
Yes.
When God started to notice all of the crazy things these giants were doing. Now they, I guess, went off the handle. They were doing these crazy things like allegedly eating each other, eating like humans, just doing awful things. And then they got kind of bored with the humans and then they were like mating with animals. So then they were like hybrid
like
type.
Mentor, yeah.
Yes. Yep. Okay. So God was like, what is going on? He ordered his angels down to cut down. There were giant trees that reached the heavens because these are hybrid beings, right? Part human, part from a different realm. And obviously evil, demonic things. Cut down these trees. So these mass formations all around the world that everyone says these are mountains, but they're actually big tree trunks that were chopped down. Now,
Devil's Tower.
Yes. So then also the giants, the only way to flood the earth was to cut down those trees because the trees reached the heavens and they could have escaped. Floods came 40 days, 40 nights. That was the right amount to fully submerge these giants. And they became petrified. They were petrified giants. So all of these like land masses around the whole world. So they say with these massive trees, there were massive amounts of oxygen. I mean, so if you just think of these trees reaching the heavens at that time, that's why they could live such a long, Noah was like 900 years old. Like his grandfather was like 600 years old. It was something like that. And because of these massive trees giving off all of this like rich oxygen. So then that's where they're saying all of these animals, like not dinosaurs, but like dragons and insects were very large because they have this massive amount of oxygen. God orders the angels to come and cut those trees down, floods the earth. Could that be why all of these land masses of ginormous mountains look like actual beings? Now they say there's like a name for it. It starts with a P, pareidolia, where it's like your mind is, you're like, yeah. It's like, oh, that looks like a face, but it's not a face. It's just your little brain playing a little tricksy on you, but it's not. Like it is. Like it looks like these giants.
There's a Walmart in Galveston, Texas. It's probably the most haunted place in America. And most people don't even know that it's there. Now, you have to understand the history of Galveston, Texas. In the 1900s, there was a giant hurricane that basically put the whole city underwater. And you had over 6,000 people who passed away. Now, where this Walmart is built, during that time of the hurricane, there was an orphanage. And when the hurricane hit, it completely put the orphanage underwater. 100 people at that orphanage passed away, 90 children and 10 nuns. And it's said that the spirit of those children still haunt that Walmart to this day. Now, if you go to this Walmart, you'll notice that it's kind of eerie. And they close at 10 p.m. the people that work there do not like to stay late because a lot of weird things happen, such as toys turning on by themselves, hearing children's laughter, seeing children running through the aisles. Now, there was a story from one of the workers who worked the night shift. They were restocking the children's area where the toys are located. And as this worker goes over to their pallet, they begin to hear children laughing and they hear all these toys turning on. So they go over to this aisle and they see about 6 or 7 children playing with all the toys. And they're dressed in 1900s looking clothing. And so this employee runs and gets the GM and tells him, like, hey, there's something weird happening in the toy aisle. So the GM follows this employee to the aisle. And when they get there, there's no children. But there are all these toys laid out on the floor as if someone was playing with them. So what do you think? Is the Walmart in Galveston haunted?
I heard that the whole island is an indigenous graveyard. Is that true?
Just made some bizarre claims. Take a look at this.
Over the last 2 weeks, multiple people, including 2 members of Congress, have not denied that our own government is experimenting with mixing the DNA between some alien species and humans.
But it didn't stop there. Then they dropped this.
4 different species of aliens. Another scientist called them Greys, Nordics, Insectoids, and reptilians.
Sound crazy? Well, the Bible actually predicted this thousands of years ago. In Genesis 6, during the days of Noah, we see that the sons of God, aka fallen angels, came into the daughters of man, and they bore children to them, which produced the Nephilim, semi-divine beings, giants, a corrupted bloodline, and the reason that God had to destroy the entire earth with a flood. But here's where this gets disturbing. When the disciples asked Jesus what the signs would be of his second coming, he said, "For as were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man." So when we start hearing mainstream conversations about non-human intelligence, hybrid beings, DNA manipulation, and mixing human genetics with something that's not human, we have to stop treating every headline like it's science fiction. There's a spiritual agenda behind a lot of what we're seeing. And whether these reports are true, partly true, or just preparing people for a deeper deception, the warning is the same. Do not be deceived. Because the days of Noah are not just history. They may just be happening again.
Did you see the dozens of men that had to be hospitalized after drinking cosplay girls?
Oh my God.
Foot juice water.
I seen this shit.
This actually happened this year at this event called FanimeCon, which is pretty much just like a anime convention for like a bunch of fans out there. And it's a pretty big event.
Sick.
There are these cosplay girls that apparently were cosplaying as some of these dudes' favorite characters. They had these booths or like these little areas that they're posted, and they would be sitting in these like high chairs above like a cooler that had like juice in it and ice cubes. And they would just be sitting there with their feet in the cooler. If a guy would come by, they were able to purchase
like a cup
of it. But there was different prices where it was literally like $15 for like a little bit of like drizzle off of her foot, like where she'll hang her foot over your mouth, and then you would just like get a little bit like that. There's 20 where you can get like a cup full, I think. And then there's like a $30 one or whatever where it's like you can drink it like just straight off the foot, which is interesting. And these guys were doing that, and the footage is absolutely insane.
I remember seeing videos of it, yeah.
And after it was over, I think the day after, they said a bunch of dudes ended up being hospitalized. Allegedly, they had to stay there for like a couple days in the hospital because of this. And they said that they had fungal lung infection from drinking this girl's foot juice, or many of these girls that were there, their foot juice. After all of these guys getting sick, they're actually trying to sue the AnimeCon.
Oh, wow. And not the girls who got
the girls, but the AnimeCon, because they're still. So they're like, we got to go to the higher ups. So they're trying to sue the whole AnimeCon for basically all these guys getting sick.
Jesus Christ. I'm not gonna lie, bro, they deserve it. They 100% deserve that.
Yeah, that's why I said you're not going to feel bad for these guys.
Yeah, I don't feel bad in the slightest about these guys.
Yeah, so them trying to sue the AnimeCon is the dumbest thing I ever.
You pay for bacteria-infected water and drink it, that's on you.
This is what's really weird. So, you know, Venezuela, right? The whole thing with earthquake and whatnot, right? Guess who's on the ground right now when it comes to relief and efforts? Bill and Hillary Clinton.
Oh, they shopping.
So the Clinton Global Initiative is actively working with Venezuela to help with aid missing kids. So there's thousands and thousands of kids missing, and there is reports allegedly of kids being trafficked. Allegedly, now you look at the Clinton Manhattan Global Initiative, who's on the ground. Kind of weird. I've talked to somebody. They gave me some vital information to where they work in that sector, and they confirmed that certain people are grabbing kids and saying, oh, I'm their caretaker. I'm their uncle or aunt or whatever.
Oh,
no
shit.
paperwork, no nothing. They're claiming these kids, and then poof, pow, they're gone.
That shit's sad because you think about those third world countries, and I've lived in one. You see these kids and they're just
out in the street,
unaccounted for.
Yeah.
You see a lot of these weirdos overseas that come from all over the world to do weird shit.
Yeah, no, it's sad, and that's why we got to bring awareness to this, because it's happening.
Oh,
It's
my
the biggest
goodness.
business on earth, trafficking.
I
So
hope
the
this is not
earthquake,
true.
thousands of people died. You're estimating at least 100,000 people missing. Over 700 buildings gone.
700.
700.
That's a whole city.
Yes. And then they have the smart city plan. They're rebuilding Venezuela, and America has control over it.
And remember when we started talking about earthquake lights? Next day, the sky's red.
Sky's red.
Yep. Then they try to
You
say,
see the
that's
sky's red?
The Sahara dust has came in. I'm like,
Come
yo,
on.
y'all got an excuse for everything.
That ain't no damn dust.
So-
It's not nothing.
We're going to keep our eye on it. Just weird that they're down on the ground. There's kids missing.
Did anybody
Something.
see them bring a fork and spoon? I just want to know.
Talking about, oh,
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you got to watch for these groups like CPS, Child Protective Service.
Ah,
Are they really saving kids?
I know people that have been through that as a child, and they're like, yo, it's the worst thing ever. They
Worst.
treat you like an animal.
Yes. So you got to watch out for these groups. Do your deep dive on the Amber Alert. Very same people, allegedly, who have these alerts with the Got Milk campaign and all that. There's a correlation. There's always a weird correlation. How is it that we have missing kids on milk cartons, and then we have celebrities talking about Got Milk?
Parents, protect your kids at all times.
I think that the Liberian civil wars are the closest that we will ever get to Blood Meridian in the modern era. Because if you don't know, the Liberian civil war is essentially descended into a situation where you had multiple warlords all fighting over the country using drugged up child soldiers. The outfits, which are probably the most visually distinctive element of the conflict, came about because the child soldiers, through the massive amounts of coercion and drugs that they were under, came to believe that these outfits would both inspire fear while also protecting them from bullets. In Blood Meridian, Cormac McCarthy describes one of the groups of warriors as wearing like these wedding gowns, stovepipe hats, all like the skulls of their enemies. And I think that this is the only time that we've really seen this in the modern era, just on the internet. And these things were going on while the internet was around. These were on and off until 2003. Something which is even more thought-provoking whenever you consider that the entire Civil War is descended out of power instabilities that were created whenever the U.S. created the Liberian Project, whenever they started shipping repatriated slaves back to Africa. They gave you a situation of how insane this conflict is. After the first Civil War ended, there was an election that is generally regarded to be reasonably fair, and the winning candidate, who was one of the warlords, Charles Taylor, his slogan was, "He killed my ma, he killed my pa, but I will vote for him." He won 75% of the vote. This is the guy that they thought had the level head out of all of this. There's been a lot of talk into like the dreamlike qualities of Heart of Darkness and Apocalypse Now and other war films, but this is the only time I think that I've seen it just in real life, which makes the situation that the most famous person from this conflict is this guy because of his name that much more surreal, because, well, he did actually fight butt naked. All war is hell.
Man, respect to General Butt Naked.
But honestly, this may just be the most surreal version of it.
Oh, man. Hey, so how's Liberia doing now?
Look at their faces around them. This is a cake. Look how they smiling with joy. This was at an Afro-Swedish exhibit. This artist was also, it's a disturbing picture, but also a disturbing subject. In the last few days, Afro-Swedish artist Makodi Linden has learned the power of the viral web. His controversial cake performance at Stockholm Modernina Museet has ricocheted around the world and has generated reactions of all types, from support of his edgy gesture to raise awareness about Okay, look, bro. He said he was trying to raise awareness, right? And he was trying to bring something that was disturbing. It was disturbing to us, but they look like they were having a good time because this is it's in them. There's books. It's what they do. They put our ancestors in chairs, bro. Go search it up. I reacted to that video before too. Still think they ain't serving something that's not. Still think we all just one. We all humans. Would you do something like that?
Question is, who is screaming? Was it a real recording of someone screaming?
An alarming pattern has emerged thanks to Aaron Brockovich mapping out the location of data centers. The clear pattern being that these data centers are being built in areas suffering from major droughts. So far, her map consists of 33 data centers that are operational, 44 under construction, 27 more proposed facilities. With growing concerns of energy consumption, noise, waste, water usage, the more data centers added to the map, the more this pattern is hard to ignore. A medium to large data center consuming up to 5 million gallons a day, which is the equivalent of having about 10 to 50,000 people using water in one town. Water primarily being used to cool the servers. Why is data centers being put in areas already being hit by drought alarming? We'll take Fayette County, Georgia, for example. Data center in Fayette County having secretly sucked down 30 million gallons of water. And we're not talking about the water this data center was expected to use. This was nearly 30 million gallons of water extra that not just residents didn't know about. Fayette County's own water authority had no idea the data center had been using the water. How much water is 30 million gallons of water? Approximately 44 Olympic-sized pools worth of water. No one knew it was happening until residents started complaining about not having water pressure. Come to find out, this data center had multiple lines connected to the water supply that no one knew about. Meaning not only were they using a ton of water, they weren't even paying for it. So is Fayette County one of these areas not dealing with the drought? Not even close. Not only was Fayette County to be found to have 30 million gallons of water used by the data center no one knew about, this area is suffering from the highest level drought you can have. Experts describing it as the worst dry spell in nearly 20 years. Kind of drought where people who live in this area of Georgia have to deal with a year-round water schedule, where if they're caught using water outside of their scheduled times, they could not only be fined, but they potentially could have their water disconnected. Did Fayette County's data center lose their water? Nope. Not only causing alarm, but adding to the ever-growing uneasiness with the ever-growing amount of data centers in the U.S.
Wow, this is madness, folks. Whew, I don't know.
I'm going to show you one symbol that will change the way you view this film forever. What Saul calls the apex of the vortex of civil engineering. When we're introduced to the cross joint, Saul lifts it up and says it was a masterpiece designed by his second favorite civil engineer. You got two joints crossed into a third and lit at three ends. But if we listen closely, Saul says the entire secret out loud. He says, I can't smoke this thing by myself. And that is the movie. That is Pineapple Express, because alone, a single joint just smolders. But together, the three different embers smolder into one central location. Dale alone is a man in motion. We got the brown suit, the car, the talk radio, the girlfriend in high school. He's a process server. If you look at his outfit, we have a brown suit mixed with the blue of the high school and the blue of his girlfriend's clothing. He's a half alive, half lit man. He's never grown up and he never stays anywhere long enough to feel an impact. He's always in motion. And Saul, on the other hand, is warmth without direction. We got the holy fool in a yellow apartment with weed, snacks, and a door that will be opened by anybody with a faux hawk. And his main downfall is he just wants someone to stay longer than 20 minutes. Alone, these guys smolder, but together they catch fire. And the cross joint is also telling you the cost of this symbol. Place where both lines meet, the cross, the intersection, is also the place that is the most structurally weak. And that is Red. Red is the cross point. He's the friend close enough to know the plug, but the betrayer close enough to actually break the bond. Even this guy's kimono is a dead giveaway. We have the red with the black on top. We got the shadow over fire. The ignition point dressed as betrayal. He's chill as a cucumber, but he's ready to sink the whole ship. And this honestly is the whole law of the film. Friendship doesn't make them safe. Friendship makes them alive. And to be alive makes them vulnerable. But this is what the symbol of the cross was always pointing back to. A cross is more than two lines. It's what happens when two lines collide. A third thing is created, and that is tension. The cross is the joining of sacrifice and exposure. And Saul builds this thing without even knowing what he's building. And that's why he's the holy fool. Not because he's a philosopher or super intelligent, but because he's innocent and he's warm enough to hold it. But admit that's why the fool is so important. He's the only one who's innocent enough to bring the holy object into the room. He says, stay, sit down, smoke this, be here with me now. And the tragedy is the man who builds the cross is usually the one who ends up on it. The joke is a crucifix you could smoke. The film hands you the whole symbol before we even start moving. Tells you everything you need to know in the form of a joke, because that is how the truest things usually enter the room.
For those that don't pay attention, you might never notice that every single time an actor, musician, or anyone related from Hollywood is about to become more famous or move up the ladder, they always seem to reappear with bleached blonde hair. There is no way this is just a coincidence. I have never met any man or groups of men who wish to dye their hair bleach blonde. It just doesn't happen. How far does MK Ultra go? Memory suppression.
You know, it's been...
You have a release date.
You know what? They did the Brighter Days memory erasure treatment to me, so I'm having trouble remembering the details. They're foggy because at the Brighter Days clinic, they do the memory erasure, you know?
The what? The what? The what?
The memory erasure. They erase my memories. It's a little foggy, but...
Give me a date. Give me a date.
You know what? I'll have to go back to the clinic and see if they can restore my memory. Brighter Days memory erasure treatment.
Now, the thing is with the symbolism for the blonde hair, the handlers that fund the pawns or the puppets that you listen to, that you watch through screens, behind the scenes, they are letting them know that they will not have their memory intact whenever this operation goes through, which is why a lot of times they are chained down to chairs, tied up, and they have to have their lids or eyelids propped up open so that now they can be, let's say, loaned and tuned into a vibration or even just a agenda that internally will make sense for them to act upon, but not discuss. It's exactly why they know the occult. They understand that it's easy to fool a European class citizen and a melanin class citizen as well. Because when you speak about things like this, they will say, y'all just come up with anything. You're a conspiracy theorist, this and that. It's just like we're still in another processing of denial because people are afraid of what's really being done to our people and even just their people as well. And they refuse to see the evidence for what it is because they practice cognitive bias. And if they were to ever hear about this truth and what's being done to children as well in the same exact manner, they will lose their mind. Their whole entire worldview on their favorite heroes would collapse and they wouldn't know how to exist in their own mind anymore. That would be a lot of times too, they will knock themselves off due to suicide because it's too overbearing for them to think about when it comes to their favorite celebrity. This is exactly why all these famous people that you look up to, all they can ever do is craft the way you kill yourself. That's exactly why you can't blame anybody else but the allowance of what you secretly put feelings into.
This is what it's like living with a data center in your neighborhood. And this is what it's like living with a data center on your block. And this is what it's like living with a data center on your block inside of your house with all of the doors and windows closed. Sometimes they flood your neighborhoods and do nothing about it.
House was pretty much surrounded by water.
Record levels of flooding coming out of this site.
But most of the times they do this to the neighborhood water supply.
Water pressure in your kitchen. Those are the things we have to fill up to flush the toilets.
So you can see the sediment from the data center. Wow. And that's just from the water coming out of your faucet.
Yeah. And this is what's in all pipe.
And if you're like, Ed, this would never happen where I live because my neighborhood would never allow this to happen. Well, in Gilroy, California, Amazon is building a 60-acre data center. And because they're building it in an industrial area, just far enough outside of the closest residential area, they didn't have to consult any of the residents.
They say they know at this point they probably can't stop this data center.
And if you're like, Ed, if they're building it just far enough outside of the reach of residential areas, then it should be fine, right? Nope, because they're illegally and secretly building power plants inside of these data centers.
This is what it looks like in a standard drone shot, but watch what happens when I switch to thermal. Wow.
Those smokestacks that you see, they're literally built to disperse pollutants into the area. That's why even though you don't actively see smoke coming out of those smokestacks, under heat, you will see that they are actively burning pollutants into the air. And it's crazy that Lee Zeldin, the current head of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, when he took over office last year, stated that he was boosting AI, the Environmental Protection Agency head, which has not only allowed this data center, but because these data centers require so much energy to operate, even Elon Musk's XAI data center in Memphis, Tennessee, was found that they were illegally generating extra electricity. Surprise, because they had secretly built an illegal power plant inside of their data center. See those smokestacks with all of those smoke coming out of it? And it's because the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin has stated that he will not set national environmental standards for AI data centers, even though the EPA's own website clearly states that those emissions have serious health and environmental impacts. And again, on the EPA's website, that are not limited to the area immediately adjacent to the plant, but because air pollution can travel over long distances, the impacts of power plant emissions can be felt locally as well as many miles away, meaning that the air quality in a community can be impacted by far distant sources as well as those site near a community. And because I don't think that the millions of Americans across tens of thousands of neighborhoods across the country should have to fight individual battles to keep these data centers out in order to keep their property values from plummeting and their families' health from plummeting, I created this petition. You can find it right here, demanding that the decision makers like EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin prioritize the lives of Americans and not the pockets of billionaires and set national standards for keeping data centers out of our neighborhoods. Sign the petition and help save our neighborhoods. Thank you and stay safe.
There you go, folks. Sign the petition.
There's a very strange occurrence that happened in Shasta Forest back in 2010. A 3-year-old mysteriously vanished without a trace. The child was camping with his family on the banks of a large creek, and around 6 p.m. he disappeared. The parents searched for him for hours, and it wasn't until they had contacted the local sheriff that they were able to find him lying in a thicket. The good news was that he was alive, he was just very, very out of it. So the family was celebrating, everyone thought everything was okay, but about 3 weeks later, this little boy started to say some very weird things about the night that he had disappeared. He went up to his grandmother and told her that he didn't like his other grandmother. So she asked him what he meant because he only had one grandmother and that was her. And this is what he said. This is a quote from him. "Don't you remember when I was lost in the woods? My other grandma grabbed me and took me to a creepy place. She's really a robot. It was a cave with spiders. She told me that I am from outer space and they put me in mom's tummy. Then she took me back to the river and said to wait until someone found me." Once again, this is a 100% true story. The kid said that spiders were working with his other grandma to kidnap him. He also said to his grandma, "She had your same hair, your feet, and even your face." And that really scared her deeply. The idea that some kind of doppelganger of her had tried to kidnap her grandson. Now, she admitted that she probably would have just written off her grandson's story, you know, just thinking that maybe it was some child's overactive imagination. But she believed him because she had something strange happen to her a year before he had been abducted. She had been camping in the same area near Fowler's campground in McLeod, California, and she claims to have woken up one morning face down in the dirt. She had been totally removed from her tent and her sleeping bag, and she had 2 puncture wounds on the back of her head. She said she felt violently ill that morning and felt strangely emotionless, so she thought she had been bitten by a poisonous spider. She said that she was with a friend who had been sleeping in his separate camper, and he also woke up with a bite on the back of his neck, and he also felt ill. The only thing strange she could recall seeing was red eyes shining through the trees in their flashlights the night before this all happened, and they just thought that maybe it was some deer watching them. But people who have heard this story, to them it just sounds like there was this huge group of spiders with red glowing eyes that were biting people in their sleep and like trying to take them away. It's just really bizarre and honestly a really confusing story to try to decipher.
No one's gonna do it. Someone's gotta say it. Ancient China was insane. You ever seen this? It was a sword with circuitry in it. You ever seen one of those? Puzzle ball made out of one piece of ivory. They invented a paint that has quantum properties, painted these soldiers, then buried them. It's possible they collaborated with the Egyptians because they did it too. But that's not where the similarities stop. The Egyptians carved these vases out of granite. They are hundreds of times more precise than the most intricate movement that your hand is capable of doing. This was discovered by using a laser to measure the symmetry of the object. 8,000 years ago, guess who else did the same thing? Ancient China. Do me a favor and Google Neolithic humans, and then tell me why those guys had a use for a vase that is that precise. China has more pyramids than Egypt, and they're aligned to the same stars. Ancient Egypt, people with long heads. Ancient Peru, people with long heads. Ancient China, people with long heads. This mysterious icon that's found in every ancient culture, found in China. Snake, dragon, serpent worship, China. Coolest creature ever, the foo dog, guarding another ancient symbol. Their architecture looks the way it does because it can withstand a 9.5 earthquake. And while we use modern tech to figure out how that works, they used a jar that could detect the earthquakes. It's the very first one ever invented. All right, last one. If you shine a light on a Chinese magic mirror, it will show you the reflection of what's on the back of the mirror. And believe it or not, we are just scratching the surface.
It's all connected from further back. I'm convinced.
This might be one of the creepiest things Google has ever announced. They now want you to scan your hands just to prove that you're human.
Bots got good. AI can crack the old crosswalk puzzles in seconds, and automated traffic recently passed human traffic online, at least for requests to web pages. So Google's reaching for something harder to fake. When it triggers, your browser asks for camera access and records a short clip of your hand. It maps 21 points across your knuckles and joints. Let's be clear about what that is. A scan of your hand is biometric data, the same category as a fingerprint or a face scan.
Think about that for a second. First, it was fingerprints, then your face. Now they'll have a record of even your hands. And somehow it just keeps getting worse.
We have Google admitting earlier this year that all the AI systems they're forcing into their phones is actually a way to harvest your data to further train their AI systems. And then they added Nano Banana 2 onto their phones so that they could scan all of your photos. And now they want to harvest your audio data by recording and banking all of your conversations and the ambient noise around you whenever you go places.
I got a middle finger that can scan.
Historical facts that don't sound real. Chainsaw was invented originally to be used during childbirth. A German scientist was looking for an alternative to morphine, which was causing a lot of addiction issues at the time. So he chemically altered morphine and created heroin. And then he put it on the store shelves and listed it as a product that was safe for adults, safe for kids, and non-habit forming. Surgery was originally done with zero anesthesia, and speed was considered a surgeon's greatest skill. This one's kind of gross, but before toilet paper was invented, the ancient Romans had something called a community sponge, which is a sponge that was put on a stick and then left by the toilet, and everyone used that sponge.
Disgusting.
When Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, there was actually a man that was sitting next to him, his really good friend, and then his wife, who was really good friends with Lincoln's wife. And he got up, tackled John Wilkes Booth to the ground, but he was able to get away because he cut his arm with a dagger and he escaped. And the guy lived with it for the rest of his life. Like he always felt really guilty. And, I don't know, he lost his mind in, 1833 and killed his wife and then tried to kill himself, but he failed. And then he spent the rest of his life in a mental institution.
Well, it's over. Deadly cat fungus and microticks are coming for us. The USDA just admitted in an X post that you have to be ready for those microticks that are even smaller than poppy seeds. Of course, we knew that because people have been reporting these microticks for a month now. Ticks so small that you won't even know they're attached to you until it's too late.
Those are all little baby ticks. Crawling up my leg.
Oh, that's disgusting. That's crazy, man.
I thought these were scabs. And then I'm like, well, why would I have a scab? So this morning I realized I had these things in between my nails. And I thought, oh, is it dirt? And then I looked closer. I was like, oh, it looks like a scab. And then I'm talking to my mom on the phone and I'm just kind of like playing around with my hands. And I'm realizing that these are actually seed ticks. And they're on this hand too. Once I realized they were on multiple of my hands, that's when I was like, what are these? That is a seed tick.
And as if this tick situation wasn't bad enough already, they're saying a deadly cat fungus is about to hit the US. Scientists just found it inside wild mammals, birds, and even reptiles in Brazil. It spreads through infected cats and can infect humans. One CDC expert warns it's only a matter of time before it reaches the United States, and that raises the question, why are all these deadly biological outbreaks happening at the same damn time? We got a tick invasion that can make people allergic to meat or just kill them. We've got cannibal insects wreaking havoc in many states, and now they're talking about a cat fungus. What exactly are they trying to do?
This is crazy, man. Wow. Biological warfare, since chemical warfare would start havoc.
This is what it was like to be in the New York City Mafia in the 1980s. There were 5 Italian families, and then there were the Westies,
John Gotti,
which were a separate Irish-American group. They were all competing for control of the New York City neighborhoods. The TV show The Westies focuses on that power struggle. You're in Hell's Kitchen in the 1980s, and nothing is stable. Power wasn't controlled by one group. It was divided between the Italian Mafia, who ran most of New York City's crime, and local gangs like the Westies, who controlled specific neighborhoods. So instead of things feeling organized, there was this constant tension everywhere you went. Every block felt different depending on who was in control and who you were dealing with in that certain moment. And the scariest part wasn't the conflict, it's that whoever was in charge could change at a moment's notice, and everybody felt that. That's the world that the Westies is set in. It's not one mafia, but all of these different powers trying to survive in the same city at the same time. I was at the premiere the other night, and episode 1 left us on a huge cliffhanger where we don't know how this one character is going to get out of this massive problem that he just created. Thank God the first 2 episodes are premiering together on July 12th on MGM+. Hi, I'm Grace. Can I be your horror girlie?
I would love to see that.
They use blood in their rituals, and the blood that has the most power is baby's blood. And they don't just use the blood, they use the flesh too.
Ooh. He sacrificed his pregnant wife via MK Ultra, Charles Manson family.
What do you mean they're not actually AI data centers? They're actually fusion centers. I didn't even know what that was.
They're trying to trick us, y'all. A fusion center is a collaborative hub where federal, state, local, tribal, and private sector agencies pool information and resources to detect, prevent, and respond to criminal and terrorist activities. Bro, I don't care what y'all say, but that description sounded like a data center or a police station. What do y'all think? And Donald Trump just signed these executive orders, bro. These new executive orders mean new technology is going to be established, y'all. But I also told you that Donald Trump wants us to benefit from this. Go check it out. The project is called the American AI Fund, and the Americans who has positioned themselves early, they have been
Why this guy's pushing crypto now?
Even the benefits, and look at this, it's still ripping.
This is meme coin, buddy.
I see that artificial intelligence is only accelerating, so I position myself early for this, man. You don't have to do anything. I'm just showing you guys how to do my research. But if you guys want to check this out, the information for this will be pinned in the comments below, man. We're in a digital age. Let's continue to get it, y'all. Peace in.
Epstein's chalkboard that I decoded was the modern MK Ultra blueprints. And now, Congress is finally holding new MK Ultra hearings. Representative Luna says the old CIA mind control files were destroyed, buried, and hidden from the public. But the program didn't disappear. It evolved. The left side of the chalkboard was the control formula. The right side was the delivery system. The old MK Ultra was one person in a room getting broken. The modern MK Ultra is mass scale. Culture, schools, celebrities, algorithms, money, perception. They don't need to drug one person anymore. They can tune the whole population. MK Ultra didn't end. It became the system.
Stay close to Jesus. That's all. Oh, by the way, shout out to Dolce and K-Miri. Happy birthday and God bless.
Do you guys know about the flock camera systems? One private company got this agreement with the whole country. And what it's supposed to do is track your license plates. They said it's really just for traffic use.
Which is lame.
And people were like, but it's built in with AI. And so people were like, it seems like you're actually starting to track people. It turns out they are a little more malicious.
Nefarious.
Nefarious.
No way.
In fact, they've been doing facial recognition on everyone. One lady was pulled over and arrested because the flock camera alerted the police that a wanted criminal criminal was just caught on camera. Turns out it was not that person.
Wow.
A whistleblower from the company of Flock came out and said that they are tracking your vehicle's every move using heat signature capturing.
Wow.
It's a surveillance system.
Yeah.
learning patterns.
But people are starting to catch on, and these vandals going out and cutting down all these
that's
SWAT
how
cameras.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to stop using AI for law enforcement.
Literally, we're just sneaking in everything that China is doing.
We've probably been doing it for the last 3 decades.
We're just better at hiding it.
I'm ready to just take down AI.
Let's do it. What do we do? How do we take down AI?
AI will be the downfall of the world.
Why is no one speaking about the fact that the government only mentioned 4 different aliens? What about the rest of them? We live in a big ass universe, and the best y'all can do is 4. So they mentioned the Greys, Nordics, Insectoids, Reptilians. What about the cats? It's a reason why they didn't mention the Lyrans. Remember they said cats are bad luck? Nonsense. Cats represents the Lyrans, the oldest civilization in our universe. This video is about to get a little dark and a little deep. Stay with me. I remember when I was young, I used to watch Thundercats every Saturday morning. How many people remember Saturday morning cartoon? The Thundercats was trying to tell us something. The Lyrans are believed to be one of the oldest human civilizations in our galaxy, often called the original seeders, the cosmic ancestors. Why do you think the Egyptians always had a cat? The cat can see in so many different dimensions. If you are sick, a cat can purr on you and heal you. They said that Thundercats was just a cartoon. No, they was telling you the truth. They just wanted you to believe it was a cartoon. So why didn't the government speak about the Lyrans? By the way, this is the Lyran star constellation. If you are drawn to cats, you might be a starseed from the Lyra star constellation. The same thing that's happening right now, it happened back then. We are all dealing with a cosmic war. So many people that walk this planet, they are not from this planet. They had to leave their home world because of ancient wars. And guess what? We are still fighting the same people right now. You know how they say it's truth in plain sight? You ever look at the word copycat? The people that took over this world, they are just copycats. They are copying everything from the Lyra star constellation. Everything goes back to number 9. 9 goes on forever. This is the reason why they say the cats have 9 lives. When you go to the Lyra star constellation, it is controlled by the goddess or feminine energy. All you have to do is look at the word. Feminine is number 9. Don't forget that the governments and the elites are copycats. Number 9 is our number, but they copied the system and turned
this guy is just connecting everything.
Number 9 into number 6. They will never tell you about the Lyran star constellation. They're going to tell you about the Greys, Draconians, the Nordics, and the Insectoids. We already know about this shit. We're not impressed. Tell us about who really helped create everything in our universe. It wasn't the Greys.
The cat.
It wasn't the Nordic. Not the Insectoids. Damn sure not the Greys. We are having a universal cosmic war.
The cat.
Breaking news. Did you guys hear about the other problem that data centers pose? Apart from the fact that, yes, they use a ton of water, they use a ton of electricity. They're going to be used to, what is the data center for? It's going to be for the implementation of AI everywhere and all the flock cameras and this whole thing about, being surveilled and whatnot. Those are just some of the issues. Here's a new issue that data centers cause that many people are shocked about. So while many people are complaining about the fact that if you live near a data center, you're going to be hearing a constant low frequency hum and broadband noise due to the massive cooling fans, air chillers, and on-site power generators. And while this does disrupt, your sleep quality, and this is what people are reporting, it's like annoying to be near these things, but that sound doesn't just affect humans. Turns out, low frequency hums and high decibel roars from power plants, this is not necessarily data centers, but they're going to make similar noises, stresses farm animals. It can actually disrupt milk production, breeding habits, and general animal welfare. And the infrasound effect is that it will travel basically through the ground. It says inaudible low frequency energy, vibrational energy travels easily through the ground and structures, creating an unsettling continuous rumble felt by animals and humans alike. But then this study by Cal Poly did a 12-year experiment, and they basically found that industrial compressors disrupt plant seedlings and production. So look, 75% fewer seedlings.
Areas exposed to loud, continuous industrial noise had a 75% reduction in pinon pine seedlings compared to quiet sites, scaring off planters. The continuous noise did not directly hurt the plant tissue itself. Instead, it frightened away vital wildlife. Specifically, birds like the woodhouse scrub jay, which bury thousands of pine seeds, avoided the noisy areas entirely. So this could not just disrupt humans and animals, but also possibly plants. Again, this was about air compressors and industrial sounds, not necessarily data centers, but you can imagine they're both freaking loud. And that's crazy because I just found out stressed plants emit ultrasonic pops that we can't hear, but they can be caught by certain technologies, revealing a noisy cry for help, the loudest when they're dehydrated. So plants actually make noises. This plant I have here, it's not thirsty, but if it was, it would be crying right now in a weird frequency way. So let me know your thoughts. How come it's all about saving the climate, but all of a sudden we're allowed and it's all chill and good to put up a bajillion data centers that use a bajillion gallons of water and use up a ton of energy? Now,
this man has spent the last 16 days trying to kill a tick he found on his body. But despite drowning it, suffocating it, and even leaving it in the freezer for 24 hours, the tick refuses to die.
Good Lord. It lives. I fear that I have created an even stronger monster.
YouTuber Rusty Cage has so far submerged the tick in water for an entire week, hoping it would drown and die. And when it didn't, he decided, alright, let's try and suffocate it. So he placed it in a petri dish with oxygen-depleted water for 2 days. And right when you start to think, yeah, it's finally cooked, he began breathing on it. And as soon as that tick detected some carbon dioxide from a potential host, it came right back to life. But then, on day 15 of his survival experiments, he took it to the expected final stage, 24 hours in the freezer. Now this seemed to actually do the trick because the tick appeared to be unresponsive and dead. But then he tried to revive it using heat radiation from lasers. And to his horror, yet again, bro was just in a cold coma, and it woke back up. But here's the scariest part. The reason this tick in particular is so unbelievably resilient is because of what species it is. The Lone Star is not only one of the toughest, but it's also one of the most aggressive ticks out there and is native to Canada, Mexico, and the USA. Oh, and if that wasn't bad enough, this is also the same species of tick which can sometimes make humans allergic to red meat if bitten. And today, they continue spreading across North America at an unprecedented rate.
Bro spent 16 days when he could have just squished it by stepping on it.
For 5 days in 1952, London streets filled with coal smoke so thick, thousands died. Pull up a chair and let's talk about the Great Smog of London. On December 5th, 1952, a hard cold settled over the city of London. It was so cold, in fact, that people fed more and more coal into their furnaces. Smoke from chimneys, factories, power stations, trains, and traffic hung low over the city. By mid-afternoon, fog and coal smoke had mixed into a dark smog that swallowed the streets. We should note that the city of London is no stranger to fog, but this fog felt different, smelled different, and worse, it didn't lift. Visibility dropped to a few feet in some places. Buses stopped, cars crawled or were abandoned. Ambulances struggled to move. People walked around with their hands out in front of them, feeling for walls, railings, curbs, and doorways. Some never made it home. And even when they did, the smog came too. It seeped into houses, found its way into shops, and crept inside cinemas and hospitals. Dogs and cats choked to death in the alleyways, and birds dropped from the air. And although a lot of Londoners would just tough it out, the smog didn't lift for days. Each day, the city breathed the same trapped smoke. Elderly Londoners lined up at the hospitals seeking oxygen treatments. Babies and children were breathing soot inside their homes. One nurse even told the BBC that several of her patients were turning blue from a lack of oxygen. But doctors and nurses weren't immune to the smoke either. Many would soon be laid up right beside the people they were trying to help. During these 5 days, London undertakers ran out of coffins, florists ran out of flowers, and soon the death certificates would rise to numbers that London hadn't seen in modern memory. At first, the government counted about 4,000 extra deaths, but later research found the toll to be much higher, around 12,000, with many more people still suffering from the after effects of the pollution. Finally, on December 9th, the wind shifted. The smog began to clear. Streets reappeared, buildings came back into view. Londoners would open their doors and windows to find soot coating everything in their homes. In 1956, Parliament passed the Clean Air Act, creating smoke-controlled areas and restricting coal smoke from homes and factories. Another Clean Air Act followed in 1968, and coal slowly gave way to cleaner fuels and power stations placed well outside of the city. This definitely sounds like something out of a Stephen King novel, but it actually happened. And I happen to think that it's a reminder that just because something has worked for a period of time, that doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement. You'll find more dark history, mysteries, and folklore on my profile.
This sounds like a Black Mirror episode, yet somehow it's completely real. Big chemical companies wanted higher profits, so they modified fruit to be seedless, preventing farmers from saving and replanting the seeds, and now 92% of watermelons are seedless. Seeds are so crucial to farming because you can replant them each year, as we've been doing for thousands of years. But to prevent this and force them into an annual purchase cycle, these companies figured out they could effectively castrate the watermelons by making sterile hybrid versions incapable of reproduction. Consumer preference for seedless watermelons has also contributed, but the problem comes when the market turns into an oligopoly, and then once that market is cornered, these seeds become multiple times more expensive than seeded watermelons. And it didn't used to be this way. Even in the 1980s, the top 10 biggest seed companies still had a market share below 15%. But between 2003 and 2011, Syngenta and Monsanto drove seedless adoption, and the market share of seedless watermelons in the US jumped from 51% to 83%. Today, that number is at 92% and still rising. And with just 10 companies controlling over 70% of the global seed market, these watermelon farmers are paying 5 to 10x higher for these seedless varieties just to not even be able to replant them next year. We need to know where our money is going and which system it's funding, which is why you can use the Localize app to support independent farmers instead of big chemical companies.
Remember when I asked you, what does Bigfoot know? Now I'm asking, where the fuck is Bigfoot going, okay? Between March 6th and March 10th, there were over 9 confirmed sightings in Northeast Ohio, and they were all moving in the same direction, southeast. That is not random, baby. That is migration. That's a pattern. That is moving as a unit, okay? Where were they going? So I looked in that general area. About 60 to 70 miles away from where they started seeing Bigfoot is Salt Fork State Park. That is a major hotspot for Bigfoot sightings for decades. And it's got an extensive cave system. I think they know exactly where they're going, because hear me out. If Bigfoot survived all these years, it had to survive some major ass cataclysms. How did it do that? In the cave system. We'll talk.
Maybe they multi-dimensional.
About that next time.
They must be ready for the truth to come out about that Miami Mall incident. Because before, if you search for videos about it, you couldn't find anything. Now the videos are resurfacing. I'm talking about videos from 2024 when it actually happened. People who were actually there. Matter of fact, look at this shit. This video is from January 2024.
This shit is so crazy.
Listen.
I'm posting this, and I want y'all to repost, save this video, post it on other platforms before it gets taken down. Because I want to clear up some of this misinformation about the Bayside Mall incident that happened. So me and my girl was in town, and we were shopping at the mall, and we noticed a lot of kids there. It wasn't a real big deal at first until they got to arguing.
Listen.
Shoving, and then like weapons got brought in, and they started fighting, running all over the mall, chaos just all over the place. So we thought we heard gunshots, but it turns out that that was actually fireworks. But either way, that caused everybody to start rushing for the doors. People was leaving stuff behind. I mean, just dragging their kids. It was just complete fucking chaos, man. Anyway, so as we running, we look back and we notice some weird shapes taller than me. I'm 6'2", shadowy, dark, solid shapes. Not human. I promise you, these is not human. I mean, it made the hair stand up on my skin. And shit, we just booked it for the doors after that, man.
Something happened that day, and they hid it from that day. Now, let me ask you this. Why are these videos resurfacing now? You heard President Obama say that there are aliens. You heard the president say that he's going to release the alien files. And then mysteriously after that, they start releasing these videos all over again or unblocking these videos. Go down the Miami Mall rabbit hole. Look up a person named Fitz. See what Fitz said. See what he said happened. He gave a visual story about what happened. He has a 7-part series story about everything that happened in that mall. There is no way that teenage kids would mandate that many police to come to a mall. They seen something, and the proof is coming out.
Here's the real question. Why was everyone's phone confiscated and never given back?
I'm out.
This man ran a dark web red room where he would castrate people live. He also sometimes would eat what he cut off. That's how we got this nickname, and this story is completely disgusting. This is Marius Gustafsson, and he had a mental disorder where he was only content with his body after he had mutilated it. He amputated his leg and then had a friend castrate him, all while he live streamed it on his website, Eunuch Maker. Before long, he was performing this operation on tons of different willing individuals while live streaming it to his website. Apparently, there is a market for this kind of thing because the website had 10 to 20,000 visitors a day. It was said Marius would manipulate a lot of young men into performing the surgeries on them, and one time he took out one's, put them in a salad, and then ate them. He also admitted to doing this to an 8-year-old and then essaying him afterwards.
Oh my
The entire
goodness.
operation was very unsanitary. He would hardly clean the tools, and he would use things like this that were meant to be used on livestock. Reportedly, a lot of the men had to go to a hospital after because of all the infections they got. This only stopped because one of the people he operated on ended up having second thoughts and then went to the police and told them everything. They ended up arresting Marius and multiple other people who helped him. Marius was given a life sentence with a minimum of 22 years.
Anybody have any more questions about why God flooded the earth?
Scientists have discovered a vast whale graveyard 4 miles beneath the Indian Ocean that contains hundreds of skeletons dating back more than 5 million years. It is the oldest, deepest, and largest whale necropolis ever found, strewn with fossils of extinct species alongside recently deceased carcasses that support thriving ecosystems, including many organisms that are new to science. The boneyard is dominated by the remains of beaked whales, some of which may have succumbed to exhaustion or decompression sickness while hunting in these remote waters. Over millions of years, the V-shaped topography of the ocean floor has funneled their carcasses into the necropolis, where they're transformed into hotspots of life and then endure as fossil records of whale evolution over long periods. For more on this study, check out the abstract, which also includes stories about 700,000-year-old squirrel poop, galactic green peas, and a zoom lens for exoplanets.
All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you for staying until the end. I hope you like my lineup. Don't forget to subscribe, likes, and hit that bell notification button so you won't miss my next video. Have an awesome day and always. God bless.